Hello, our friends, Evolutionary, Hearts, OMMM, and EEARTS family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, for some of you that watch every single video, this might be a little bit of a recap. Again, we're always trying to share a little bit new aspects as we are constantly interacting with different beings and getting more information. It's just a progression. We're always learning. We're all always learning. Yeah, it's the whole part of life is to constantly be learning and experiencing new things.
Yes, I mean, the name of the game, if you have to have a name, is called expansion. And we definitely come to this 3D realm to glean as much expansion as possible. And sometimes it's really hard to sit in this 3D realm and understand that you chose this. You chose to come down here and have certain experiences because some are really painful. But all of that pain, joy, it all brings expansion.
And we did a video that came out this morning. Who was the Lady of Mali that humans loved? Because she wasn't really from here. As so many of the myths and legends that we have, they're one of a couple things. They're experiencing beings that are not in our realm of perception when we are in the deepest, darkest part of the Kali Yuga. And even when we're just stepping foot into the Dwapara or going into the Bronze Age after the Dark Age, we still, many don't have the ability to perceive things that are just outside of a certain spectrum. Yet there are always those that do and don't always go completely under with the amnesia thing that we experience when we come into this density in a darker time period. So realizing that so many of the beings that we're talking about when we talk about like the Lady of Mali, and many of these beings come from elsewhere. Many of these beings are higher density. This is why we don't see them today. Where did all the gods go? It's more like, where did we go? We're the ones that don't have the ability to perceive what is right there in front of our faces most of the time.
And sometimes we're just really not supposed to. And that's okay because we came here to do something different. Everyone jumps in at a certain point to work on themselves, with our human nature. We want to expand in different ways. And just like those facets of a diamond, we each have our own little glint or our own reflection back out into the cosmos. So what might be for some might not be for another, but we want to try to assist those that are in this world and trying to make sense of it because right now so many things don't make sense.
Campfire stories can be fun, and we think to myths and legends, and we wonder, what exactly is the truth behind them? Where do they come from? And really, I think the farther back we go is really where we're going to get maybe some of the more interesting nuggets, gems, and jewels, so to speak. Our legends, our myths, they are based on reality much of the time. And really, it's all about the cycle of the Yugas again. As we go through this period, which interestingly enough, this is correlated to the precession of the equinoxes. It's correlated to the Earth basically going through the astrological zones and making one full circle all the way down and around all the signs of the zodiac. It's related to many things, and there are periods of tremendous upheaval and cataclysm that come along the way. And, there's smaller cataclysms that happen much more often than we realize. And then there's some major ones like the Younger Dryas period, about 12,000 years ago, 12,800. Again, there's a rough estimate of when we go through these massive cataclysms that almost take out all life. And there's just a a bunch of straggling survivors that come back together and pull the pieces back together and start all over again. And we are kind of at that time point again where we are closing in on another end of an age and beginning of another age. Now, these cycles, if we look here, you'll see that according to this, now this is based on Sri Yugas, who was the teacher of Yogananda, whose guru himself, indirectly on down through the line, got this information from Babaji. This is actually the Dwapara and not the Kali, according to what Sri Yugaswara had gotten. So in fact, we've already exited the darkest of the Dark Age around 1700, and now we are in the ascending Dwapara. We're in the ascending Bronze Age. A lot of things happen in the Bronze Age. You can, again, look to these ages, and if you want to say, the Kali Yuga, when we are awake, we're solidly 3D. When we're sleeping, we're in 4D. Dwapara, we start to at some point become kind of all the time 4D, so to speak. And when we get up into the Golden Age, we are in more of a 5D consciousness. And what really is that? It's really about understanding the interconnectivity and the oneness of all things. That happens through expansion of the self, the realized expansion of oneself. It's all about perception. It's when our perceptions change. And it's interesting because, like Cindy was saying, we take on this veil of isolation. And that's really what happens, is we kind of take on the illusion of separateness in order to discover deeper things about ourselves and to learn these new soul lessons. And then slowly that veil of illusion disappears. And it's gone when we're up in the Satya. We understand that we're all cells in one single living organism, so to speak. We understand that we're all different perception points in the universal consciousness that exists.
Mm-hmm. I think there's the good thing that we have going on right now. I believe we are moving into touching on that ascending Dwapara energy now, because people are realizing, even through the headlines, that we are not alone, and that is the first step to being able to see past the veil. Even if it's not in 3D, it's like, that we are not alone. And then to think that we're alone is just absurd at this point. I mean, it's very, very childish to think that we're alone. And you have been able to step across that veil of information that's really kept from us in a very deliberate way. So it's a time of understanding, and it's a time when a lot of people do start to see these things and they don't really know what to do with it. They don't know where to go with it. It's like all of my friends, everyone I know, I'm the only one who is seeing things like this, and it can be very, very lonely. But I think part of that is just the natural ascension of the planet, when we are so very different and we are put in a place that is kind of stuck in time, because people are going to notice your light. They're going to see, they're going to watch and watch you do things and see how you do them. And they're going to be curious. So it's that natural curiosity is what kind of triggers other people. So in that sense, we definitely spread our light in areas that might seem, very dim. We're at where we are at for a very important reason.
Absolutely. And we have all these myths and legends about humans overcoming what we might view as monsters, right? But in reality, in so many ways, it's just fear-based. And many of these things, even if they might appear terrifying to us in our myths and legends, it's just because we don't understand things. Now, yes, absolutely. At these times, we have been under the control of very, very dark energies. And that's been part of the experience that we go through in the Yugas. Now it's time for us to break up and snap ourselves out of this trance that humanity has been in, to wake up and understand the bigger picture. As you look at this, now you could see so many different things. You could look at this and see two beings that look almost like zombie-like and serpentine and stuff. But you could also look at this and see the Ida and the Pingala, and you could see them not flowing in a proper way. And what's the Ida and the Pingala? Those are the two main nadis that run alongside the spine. And when they are balanced and harmonious, then the chakras can remain open. Then we can have a good energy flow. Then we can experience the illumination from within, from the pineal gland awakening, and we are no longer zombies. So in some ways, when I look at this, I see this being humans in a trance, the energy of humans being disrupted, and it causing blindness, so to speak. When we look to our myths and legends of all these strange creatures, that we don't see in these times, some half human, half animal, some forms of apparently animal that we just don't see anymore. It's interesting too. There's legends of people seeing griffins in California just maybe 300-400 years ago, in case you guys never heard of that. But we've touched on these type of things. Many of these beings, they're actually still right there, and they are very real. They just are what we would call 4D beings. So they're just on a higher plane of existence, or even up in 5D. There's so many legends. This is from Philippine mythology. You see many very, very human-like creatures, and you might say, well, it's a tendency to want to make things more like us. Well, the reality is there's an awful lot of human-like beings out there in our galaxy. It's a very, very common form, although not exactly like us. I mean, there are some that are little different shapes, little different sizes, different attitudes, some that might be a little bit more aquatic looking, and others, perhaps a little bit more avian, or perhaps, more animal, with a certain species of animal dominant, and some insectoid too. I mean, it's just this 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head is a very, very common thing out there. Very, very common thing. And so when we look over here, we see some more very curious entities. And this is from the Inuit tradition. Again, we all have our legendary myths and beings, but they're based on reality. They are based on reality in most cases. And again, these things so often are passed on down through these myths and legends of different times. When we look to beings like Thor, we're really talking about an actual 4D being who's very, very real and still very, very alive.
Mm-hmm. And Thor is one that really does want to do the right thing. He wants to help where he can, even though he does look to be warrior-like and warlike. Just because they're warrior-like doesn't mean that they are bad and they go and do a whole bunch of bad things. Many times these warrior-like beings are here to bring some kind of balance, because that's ultimately where it's at. It's balance. When you're able to find balance, then things flow much better in your life. And some of these beings, when they see something that is not balanced, and if they want to, they can step in and balance it, but not without very careful weighing of karma. So that's one thing that's hyper aware through the cosmos, is you don't alter someone's human experience when we are down here. Once they alter it, well, they can take on that karma. So it's not like they just jump in every scenario. It's carefully weighed through karma.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so when we look at these different ages, again, we encounter different beings in different cycles of the Yuga. J.R.R. Tolkien, a fabulous storyteller. I believe legends and myths are largely made of truth. Absolutely. And in these ages, I think we can glean more truth from them than we can from the news. It's just, it is what it is. So here you see 24,000 years of the cycle. Some will say 25, some will say 25 and change, even 26. It's in that rough zone of this coming back to where we were yet again, but in a new way too, because when we look all around the globe, we'll find that there's different astrological alignments. Why are they always so fixated on having things aligned to the stars? Well, they want to warn us of when we're in this time period. They want you to know, you are here. There's going to be great cataclysm soon. Just want to let you know, this is an FYI. This is really what they're doing. And they're also kind of letting us know that we're in a period of time when a lot of reality is truly covered, and we are told things that are complete fabrications and lies as truth. Again, the science is always changing to suit the purposes behind the science. And so we do see this whole idea. It's more like a sine wave, really. And what we have is, this is part of the sun's journey around Alcyon, which is one of the stars of the Pleiades, of which we are really actually a part of. And so when we go back to the history of the Pleiades and the Pleiades being inhabited, it again is the result in many cases, because the Pleiades are young stars. It's again refugees. We are all refugees. We are all refugees. We have to realize that. Again, this is an ongoing battle, and it's echoed in all of our traditions. In Zoroastrianism, you see this battle of Ahura Mazda and Ahriman, this constant interplay between the forces of light and dark. And yeah, we could say that's an interplay between the energies of the Yugas. Yeah, at the same time, there are beings that typify those energies, where the devas are those that we encounter in the golden age, and where we encounter these dark demonic energies in the Kali. So again, it's all relative to where we are, and even us, the vehicles that the soul, because the soul is eternal, is inhabiting, changes according to the Yugas. When the dark ones no longer can influence us, then Source is sending us unimpeded all sorts of information through Surya, which is the sun in the Vedic world. And the sun is a relay for Source. It's a relay for Vishnu. It's a relay for the creator of this universe. And the information that comes from the sun, unabated, results in us growing in more ways than one. We're physically larger. So in many cases, when we look at these bodies of giants and we say, wow, who are they? And when in a biblical perspective, they get you thinking that all the giants are these evil Nephilim, or they're this and that. In reality, in many cases, they were us. They were us. And, they go and they get smaller, 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 and then you have today's modern humans. And what they're trying to do right now is turn today's modern human into some sort of version of a gray, which is infused with AI technology, and even more limited spiritually. And this is part of the bigger battle that's underway. So when we do our mantras, we are sending out that resonance with the energies of the golden age, which triggers every cell in our body and triggers our DNA. It triggers our resonance, connects us to the devas, who again want to see us return up to the Satya Yuga, back up to the golden age, where they will interact with us much more openly. And it's again because we have fallen down to the area where their frequency is too high to come all the way down here. And so we have to climb our way back up to them and back up to that golden age.
And that's what we're doing when we are practicing our spiritual nature, as we were raising our vibration up. So we can at least touch on these beings and feel some of what they have to offer. I think it's just amazing and incredible that these are actual teachings when they talk about the Kali Yuga. I wish they would put that in Western schools. I think we should learn this. It's so important. How could it not be important? In the golden age and silver age, there's the information is just simply in the body. It's in the body. It's in the energy body. There's not a lot of need to sit there and read books. But as we get smaller and it gets darker and darker and darker, we have to pull in the books. We need the books to bring us this information. So a lot of things change when we're going back up the ladder. And it is really curious, fascinating, and fun, because Mike and I, we work in a different dimension all the time. You know, we're up in that fourth, fifth dimension, working on people's energy bodies, working on their removing blocks, things of that nature. And when you live up here all the time, you don't really, I don't want to say you lose touch, but you just get used to seeing all these beings, and it becomes very common. A lot of people are not able to see yet, but I want you to know that is because of your higher self. Your higher self knows that you are not quite ready. So if you're not seeing anything, feeling anything right now, just know you're at a stage where you're still growing, you're still cooking. Because sometimes if people do see things, higher self is going to know, you know, that's not okay. And you'll probably get that feeling to leave it be and pay attention to that feeling. If you're not supposed to be doing something, it's not good to keep doing it. It can actually hurt your energy body. So we want to be very much in tune with our feelings and our emotions as we move up in this era.
Yeah, well, the reason why it's not in schools and stuff is because we're under the control grid of the dark entities that want to give us a distorted perception of reality. They want to keep us in the darkness. So, you know, it would definitely not serve their purpose to teach us the truth. That is absolutely the case. But we can, and we will move up and out, and we are moving up and out. And when you talk about reading, too, I think the important thing is digest in small pieces. So read something and then ponder it, meditate on it, weigh it. And if it doesn't jive with heart and mind, then throw it out. You'll know. As you build that discernment, you'll know. And you'll just recognize immediately if you should keep reading or if you should just use the book as a fire starter.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Of which, you know, obviously so much of the science is nothing but fire starter. And so much of the history, unfortunately, as well, in this distorted age. So hopefully you guys got something from this. Again, when we look at the Yugas, and we've talked about this before, in the Kali Yuga, it is said, you know, that humans live a lifespan that's just a blink of an eye, you know, and we even see it reflected biblically where it says, you know, humans shall live no longer than 120 years. Yet, when we go into, by the time we're ready to go from the Dwapara into the silver, lifespans of 1,000 years or more are very, very possible. And we've channeled the children of the star children, the children that are here on Earth in 2055 that are living outside of these cities, that are living out in nature and are in union with nature. And they had said that they are much healthier than their parents were and grandparents, and they are living much, much longer lives outside of the system, where those in the cities are living shorter and shorter lives. And, you know, we can see this reflected right now with what's happening. When we move on up into the Silver Age, lifespan of thousands of years or tens of thousands of years is possible. And then we start understanding the Sumerian kings lists as well. And in the Golden Age, our lifespans can literally be tens of thousands, if not 100,000 years. Because again, the body is not the same. It's a higher vibrational body. It's more pure energy. It's less dense. And again, it's just also a matter of everything that we are surrounded by at that particular time too. So we do have many, many lives in the Kali Yuga, and they're too short really to allow us to acquire a lot of wisdom. So that's part of the point. By the time we're just starting to get it, we're leaving this world and we're starting all over back in diapers.
You know, and just looking at it as expansion, you know, that's what we came here for. When we're going through this Kali Yuga into more light, we see a lot of different technologies that can do certain things. Well, heck, you know, messenger is something simple enough, and being able to transfer information at lightning speed. When we're in the silver and gold age, we don't need the technologies, not at all. We don't even really need them now. It's just we've been conditioned to think that we do. And I think that really delays people's ability. So I understand the what they are doing, and it's very deliberate. But for us to really grow and access our own abilities as we are supposed to, it's important to put those devices down and give yourself some really good grounding time with the mother. Also, I just want to mention how important it is, the purity of the food you take in and the water that you drink, because that's going to have a lot to do with your bodies. And as we go through this time, we learn more and more and more how important the purity of everything we put in our bodies needs to be, and that's actually life extending.
Absolutely. So we hope that you guys got something out of this. We look forward to your comments. Please give us more suggestions on where you want to go and what you want to talk about and explore. Much love and gratitude for all those that are supporting us on Ko-Fi and Patreon. If you want to learn more about yourself, whether that's Vedic astrology, whether it's, you know, contact with your guides, help with ascension, it's evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com to make an appointment. Actually, yeah, that's right, because we did get rid of Proton Mail. And do check out evolutionaryenergyarts.com to learn more about us. As always, much love, God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.